what has given you, as part of that. So,
Okay. I can do
let's
that.
start this. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, I'm Sandy Toomer. I'm with Coffee for Missions and Toomer's Coffee. And we're here in Ocean View, Virginia at one of our clients. It's called Coaster Coffee. If you go to the website, you can read a lot about them. They've been buying coffee from us, of course, but our first connection was in consulting with them. Ocean View Church wanted to reach out into the community with a standalone coffee shop, not as in the church or not part of the church, but in the community as a separate entity. Most people don't even know that Ocean View Church is involved in this, and it's kind of neat. And when Trish and I started our coffee shop in Auburn, Alabama, most people didn't know we were missionaries. We had no intentions of it becoming another, like a church coffee shop. It was just a coffee shop. It was a neutral ground that people could come in and intermingle, and we just let God have His way with it. And so when we met with this church and met with Aaron, they had the same vision and asked us to kind of show them how we did it. So as I said, now we're in the coffee shop, so have a little understanding, because a lot of the noise you hear, this is a working shop. It's very busy today. You're going to hear the doorbell ringing, the guitars in the background, the grinders, the espresso machine. It's kind of cool because we are here. There's energy going on in this place. And this is Aaron Dininny. He's the senior pastor at Ocean View OB Church in Norfolk, Virginia. So welcome. Thanks for doing this. We came here May of 2016 and sat down with your little group, and we'll have a picture of that, one of those first meetings. Tell us about your vision and then why you called us and what came of that.
Yeah, so about 10 years ago, a couple of families and myself, we had this vision of going to plant a church and going to start that church in a coffee shop that we would begin. God shut that down, as oftentimes He will do, to kind of reshape us and remold our thinking, and so 10 years later, it kind of came around to this point where, as a church, we were starting what we called a Grow OV campaign, an effort to reach up, in, and out. And that out portion of Grow OV, we decided it was time to start a coffee shop in the community, outside the church walls, to be essentially what would be a mission outpost. What we say a lot around here is that we wanted to create a place where people can meet with people, because the likelihood of people in a post-Christian urban environment, secular environment where we are, to come into the walls of a church is likely not going to happen. And I think that is happening across our nation right now, especially in the urban areas. And so we decided it was time to start this project, and so we committed to it in May, brought you guys here by the end of that month. And then throughout the summer, we searched for a location and signed a lease in September, and got to work on it. And all volunteer labor force put this thing together in a month and a half. And so we've been open now for just over 6 months or so.
Right. And it's been a piece of cake, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd do it a million times over, just like this. No.
We've talked with a lot of churches across the country who have thought about doing this, and a lot of churches have coffee shops within the church, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But basically, what those types of coffee shop environments or third spaces provide is a place for people that are already in that church to come and to meet and to congregate and to have one-on-one time. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to create an atmosphere here in Ocean View that it's open to anybody. There's no preconceived or expectations when people walk through the door. You're just providing a good product, good service, and a great atmosphere, and you're just an outreach to the community. And you were telling me some of the stories, the things that have sprung from this, which was what you were talking about. Why don't you tell us one of the stories, like the Easter egg hunt? That's kind of cool.
Sure. So the Easter egg hunt this past year just really kind of blew us away. What we found is, by seeing this place as a mission outpost for our church, we're able to do things with Coaster Coffee that we're not necessarily able to do with the church in our city. So what we found favor with our city councilman, Norfolk sheriff, and just people that want to see a good business thrive.
Right.
And so what we did, also the Civic League was a great partnership to start as well. Just in this neighborhood, they're all about it. They love us, and we love them. We love working with them. We said, you know what? Let's pool our resources together with the Civic League, and let's do something great for the community. So we had an Easter egg hunt for many years at the church, and we'd see church kids and people they'd invite. I don't want to discount the event because it was a good event for what it was, but we saw with
kind of an
parents,
annual thing. It's just people expect it every year.
Exactly. And so with parents and kids, it's probably about 100 people or so, So so it was a fun, inward kind of focused event. But I got to the point where I was just like, you know what, we're manufacturing a lot of energy here. And I think we need to do better with this Easter egg hunt. There's an opportunity here. So I said, either we're going to stop doing it or we're going to do it somewhere else. Well, we decided let's do it somewhere else. Let's try that first. So we decided beautifully placed right here across the street from the coffee shop is a giant park, one of the largest parks in the city. And we said, let's just go to Northside Park and start this Easter egg hunt there and see what happens. So we got the Civic League involved with resources and face painting, and we got another group to come in for a petting zoo, a DJ, bounce houses, and it was kind of cool because we didn't have to come and set up anything really.
Right.
We just had to do all the eggs. So we had our small
How many
groups.
eggs?
Well, we had all the small groups before the Easter egg hunt stuffing 20,000 eggs. And we were like, wow, this is huge. It's going to be amazing.
And before, when you were doing it at the church, how many eggs were you doing?
About 2,000 or so.
Yeah, so you went from 2,000 to 10 times that amount, so 20,000.
Yeah, and we did, because we didn't have any clue what to expect. And so we were just like, let's just do 20 and see what happens. So we get the groups stuffing those eggs. And
you're thinking maybe 200 or 300 people might show up for this, maybe 400.
Exactly. Well, it started at 10 a.m. The egg hunt itself wasn't really going to start till 11 a.m. It was just the activities beforehand. By 9:30, we had about 200 people kind of standing around, milling around. We weren't even totally ready yet.
Right.
And we were like, oh man, what did we get ourselves into? So by the time we started the egg hunt at 11 a.m., the police officers informed us that they had to shut down the park because there was no more parking. So that means there were, the police count, they told us, was about 3,000 people.
3,000 people.
Yeah, 3,000. And again, we couldn't have expected anything better. So
and this was an outreach not of OB Church, but more of Coaster Coffee to the community.
That was the biggest thing.
If it had just been OB Church doing this, you might not have had 2,000 or 3,000 people. But the fact that it was a coffee shop doing it, everybody came out, and it was,
And I actually had a guy when the event wasn't even quite started yet, and he came up to me and he said, man, you guys have been open for a couple months, and you've already done more for this community than anyone he had ever seen after living here for a while, and he was talking about the coffee shop.
Right.
And so I was able to chat with him and talk with him a little bit further. So, but yeah, we found favor with the coffee shop that we probably wouldn't find with the church.
It's a springboard into a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Today, you and I, and we'll probably have a little bit of this on here, but we went out to another event that was being sponsored, and you all had the booth out there, and just as we got out there, the bottom dropped out.
Yeah.
So it got canceled.
Yeah.
But in the process, you met with the sheriff, you met with some other leaders, and just the fact that you were there is just another opportunity. Are there some other things like that have gone on?
Yeah, we were in an event back in February called Engage Norfolk, and it was a bunch of nonprofit organizations that were just what I call gospel organizations that don't necessarily have the gospel attached, because they're not necessarily Christian organizations, but they're there to help people. And we were able to be a part of that event and network with people doing very similar things that we're trying to do in our community. And that's a leverage point for the church too, is to try to get our small groups on mission and partnering with these kind of organizations beyond Coaster Coffee, to work with them. So Yeah, so we were able, as Coaster Coffee was able to be a part of that, and just emphasize the fact that we're here for the community. You know, people know that.
Yeah, I want to talk about one other aspect to this, and frankly, our whole vision for this has changed quite a bit in talking to churches, because our vision initially was that a church starting this type of a outreach ministry that is kind of a para-church ministry. It's not tied to the church, doesn't have the church's name, and you're not trying to fool anybody. You'll tell people who runs it, but that's not why you're here. This is not OV Church Coffee Shop. This is Coaster Coffee. It's open to the community. You partner with the community. But one of the things that we had always told churches is, if you set this up, from the proceeds and the profits in the shop, you can now fund ministries, you can fund outreach, and that's one of the things you all are trying to touch, community events and that type of thing. But you and I were talking this morning, you all are in that phase. Mm-hmm. My wife and I started our shop. We honestly did not become what I would call truly profitable for probably 18 months, 2 years into it, because we were paying off. We didn't really have a lot of debt, but to get everything in place and get all of the pieces together and tie all, get all the gears meshing just right. It takes you a little while. It's growing a business.
Yeah. And you need to know, first of all, how relieving it is to hear that.
Yeah.
Because we're 6 months in and we're like, oh my gosh, we're only at 70%. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
It was affirming to hear you tell us that.
And that's normal for most
businesses.
Most businesses. And we tell this to people, that the number one cause for most business failures is it's not that people don't plan to fail, but a lot of times they fail to plan. We've all heard that. But they overcapitalize up front on the wrong things, and then don't say, hey, it's going to take us a while to get there. We need to stick back. Let's hold off. Let's don't buy the newest and the best. Let's buy used. Let's lease this. Let's see what we can do. Let's make our own counters.
Right.
Things that they did and we did. But this was the point I was getting at, was even if you're not making a profit after 2 years, the impact you're having on this community, you think of the things that most churches spend money on, short-term missions trips, and I'm not discounting any of that at all. Those are all good things, but the things that you as a church spend money on right now with no expectation of a return or any profitability, the coffee shop offers that potential over time if you stick with it, not only as a springboard into the community and a way to make an impact outside the four walls of your church, in a very safe way for a lot of people who don't know the Lord, and people go, wow, these people are pretty normal. They're nice people. You kind of draw them to you. You are light. But for those 2 years, 18 months till you become profitable, you are making such an impact on the community with the opportunity to eventually become profitable. And on top of that, now you've got money that's going back into community like food closets and things like that. And on top of that, you're also providing employment for a number of people in your shop. And as it was with us, we didn't try to just employ just church kids. Yeah. We had a lot of kids that worked for us that did not know the Lord, and it was a ministry to those people.
Absolutely.
And you have to look at this. This is not black and white. It's multi. So talk about that kind of aspect, how you all see that for you all.
Yeah. So some of the biggest concerns we operate as a nonprofit. So I think one of the questions we had back when you guys first came up was, how's that going to work? And I don't think any of us had answers. We kind of had ideas, but we actually went and sought a great lawyer that actually specializes in nonprofit stuff, and it was fantastic. They did a great job of just basically telling us, you have an incorporation with a church. You need to drop down an LLC to isolate your liability with this Coaster Coffee, so that just in case anything ever would happen. But it's its own entity. It gets its nonprofit status from the church, and so that legal setup was kind of the first question we had in figuring out how all that works.
It was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it really was. It wasn't that difficult. It just took some time to kind of wrap our minds around what it looks like, because it's not normal. So now we operate essentially with a management team that keeps making sure the mission and vision is intact and that we're accomplishing our goals. And we have an operations manager and a business manager that are paid by the shop, that work for the shop, and they're very close to the church as well. And those are the two main people that, well, for me, I'm going to keep close to the church. You know, I want them to stay with us, as you might say. So that's really important to me. So this management team that makes up of myself, a guy named Justin, who's an elder at the church, and Eric, who's on staff at the church. Us three are the people that aren't here every day, but we're the ones that are kind of guarding the mission and vision, making sure that's happening. So it's a polycentric type of leadership style. And then, Crystal and Christina, then we all work together to make sure that things are running as they should. So yeah, it's important.
I mean, you all are very much pioneers, because I can tell you, we have visited with a dozen churches in the past 12, 14 months, and a lot of them say, yeah, we don't really know what we want to do, but you all are the first ones who actually, taken that leap of faith and gone out there. A lot of times people don't understand in business, you got to be kind of a risk taker in business to succeed. Well, you can't just take the safe, easy route. You got to be willing, but you need a mentor, and that's what we provided.
Absolutely.
We were your kind of mentors to
that. Was huge.
And we said, we've done this, you can do this too, and we provide you with our little book and step by step, and we probably had 50 phone calls with you this year when you asked questions, just like we had a mentor when we started, and the mentorship is critical.
So that part of it was huge, like, because we're not run like a normal business would run. We all kind of see ourselves, because we're part of the church that started this, we all kind of see ourselves as owner-operators. Right. So especially in the management team.
You all take ownership in this.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, we had a lady that was in here a while ago, and just kind of talking with us about some stuff. She's a part of our church, and she said that she was asked in the community one time, well, who owns the coffee shop? And she said, well, the church owns the coffee shop. She's like, well, I guess in a way, I own the coffee shop,
exactly.
And I was like, yes, that's what we want. We want you to take ownership of this thing like we do, So you come in, you see trash on the floor or something needed pick it up, you own this thing, and
that's right.
That's the cool thing about being a very much a community effort. It also is a difficult thing, because keeping people focused on that is the hardest part. Like it's just like we stray from God in our unfaithfulness. We can stray from the coffee shop in our ownership. You forget. And you just got to be reminded. So we've had tough conversations with each other, even among the management team, just about how important it is to say to keep each other focused on what the goals are and what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay. Well, we could talk for hours. I mean, we have already talked for hours, but part of the reason we're here is to have some conversations with them on some deeper things. But churches out there, and they're thinking, I would like to do something in the community. I would like to start a church coffee shop. We're not going to try to get rich off this thing, but they've heard how this church coffee, the church's coffee shop, Coaster Coffee, is not just about making money to go to missions and to do other things, but it's the springboard into other opportunities in the community. If you were going to give advice to a church that's thinking about this, can you, two or three things that you would say to think through first or to consider?
Yeah, I think first, and I don't want to preach. I can preach if we can preach, but we won't do that. That's for Sunday. But I think we have to see ourselves as missionaries in our current post-Christian secular culture, and so. I have a little bit of training and experience in the international mission field, and I know you guys do as well.
Right.
And when you go into that environment, you have to a lot of times create a platform first before you begin to share the gospel. You need to meet people's needs. Right. For you, it was aviation. For us here, it's coffee. We don't have a coffee shop this end of the city, but we've set up a platform now to begin to learn the culture, engage people, and really show people that we truly care and love them. And this is the platform. So because we see ourselves as missionaries, we're going to leverage this platform for the gospel. Again, we, like I said already, we create a place where people can meet with people, because that's really what's important. And so yeah, I think just changing that perspective to first see yourself as a missionary, and that goes for the pastors in the church, the leadership of the church, needing to see that as well. Otherwise, coffee shops in the church are great. We have this coffee.
You all do that.
We do that. It's not huge. We didn't spend a lot of money on it, but it's something. But this, getting into the community with lost people is the most important piece of this. So yeah, I think that change of perspective, seeing yourself as a missionary, I think the willingness and the necessity of working together, and you hear a lot about that now. Just got to work together and those kind of things, and I can't stress enough the need for the leadership, whoever's going to take the reins of this thing, to be willing to hear other people's opinions, to be willing to maybe to give up one of those areas that you are not so often comfortable giving up. I'll tell you, one of the things that I held close to me was everything that was visual. That's something that I felt like, because this was driven by kind of me as the visionary behind this, I want to make sure that everything that you could see was in alignment with what we wanted. I didn't do it all, but I made sure that everything that was visible kind of ran through me, because that's what I'm fairly good at. I try to keep tight and make sure that it all feeds back to the color scheme and everything that we tried to get involved. So working with other people and on giving up and sacrificing some of the things that you thought it might be, sometimes it ends up being better because you've included other people, and their ideas. So
you may not have all the best ideas, and you find it. I know with my wife and I, when we had our coffee shop, we both had different ways of looking at the same thing, and there were times I thought I had the right answer, and found out, her way was better, or we had to compromise, and you run into that in business. Sometimes people aren't willing to compromise, and they get stuck in, this is how we're going to do it. I was just watching that movie with Michael Keaton about Ray Kroc and the two brothers that he saw the first McDonald's, and this one brother, there was one way to do everything, and he wasn't varying. And Ray Kroc, he said, well, I think we could do it this way. I think it might be better. No, we're not going to do it that way. Well, we see how that turned out. And that's just an example of what I'm saying, but the dynamics in your group in here, it's a lot better than that, because you all have a common goal.
It's about humility, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just coming to the table with Christian humility, Christ-like humility. Just say, look, I can't let my pride come to the table and my way be the highway. It's my way or the highway. I do have to come with a sense of purpose and direction, with also the openness to hear other people at the table, and that's the essence of collaboration. It's the essence of working together to accomplish a goal. It has to be driven by humility. Because like I said, it's hard to. If people come in here, me, Justin, or Eric will come in here, and for the longest time, the folks that worked here weren't sure how to view us. Like, are they the boss? Are they in charge? Are they like? It was, so at first, it was very confusing trying to figure out all those dynamics. I think we've got most of that fleshed out. Where they know when Aaron, Eric, or Justin come in, they just listen to them. You're allowed to have an opinion, but listen to them. And that's kind of how we've approached it now. We each have our different areas of specialty that we kind of work in.
So the first piece of advice you offer to a church who's thinking about this is realize this is a mission field, and this is a mission field here in the U.S. You don't have to go to Africa or Latin America to reach people, and this is a great neutral environment, the coffee shop. What would be one other thing? Do you think our mentoring, was that important? I mean, how easy would this have been if you hadn't had us?
No way.
I'm not patting us on the back. I'm just trying to say
not at all,
that's
Sandy.
why we wanted to do this.
That was huge, and for the longest time, there was so much right here in front of us with construction and making it look like we want it to look. But we took, even from there, we took your layout that you gave us, suggested layout of flow,
Right.
all the way things are set up, but all of that was like towards the end of construction.
Right.
And then, so we had so much right in front of us that during that time, it was like, we got to get this stuff done. But once it got done and got everything set up, having Trish come here and actually be here with our girls, training them before we officially opened.
Right.
She was actually here the day that our health inspection passed,
Right.
and we were able to launch off right from there. And we had a little church-only party that night here just to celebrate. Man, that having you guys available for that was massive, because none of us had ever done it before.
Right.
We had another guy that kind of worked in restaurant business. I've done some stuff, and we know business, but we don't know coffee shops.
Yeah.
So you guys being here was huge.
I
And
remember
it helps that you guys have the best coffee also.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, we do think we have good coffee, and then ultimately, I had to be honest, a big part of our goal is we want to sell you coffee, because that's how we tithe to Samaritan's Purse, MAF, Women's Hope, and other ministries out of what we make. So we need to, in order for that to grow, we need to sell more and more of our infrared coffee. But first things first is we have to help people get this vision, because I wrote this, it's on the website, and I said, it's the missionary in us. I said, our heart is to see the church get outside their four walls to reach the unbelieving world in a compelling, contemporary manner with a consistent message of Christ's love, grace, and forgiveness. And the coffee shop is one of those means. And that's what Coffee for Missions is all about, is we are trying to get the church in the U.S. to think outside the four walls, and this is a great way. It's a tried, tested, people love going to coffee shops. If you'd done this 20 years ago, it would have been a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But now everybody knows you expect Wi-Fi. You have Wi-Fi. Custom roasted coffee, you have that. You have espresso drinks. You have different kind of food items. And so you that's already been established, and it's just so natural.
Yeah.
And with mentorship, with somebody to kind of handhold you a little bit at the beginning just to get you going, because you guys are smart and you have figured a lot on your own. You've had unique things that we never ran into that you've had to deal with, and you obviously are doing very well, and we're real pleased to be up here and to be a part of this. Is there anything in closing you would tell a church if they're thinking about this?
I think that the church overall, in America at least today, and I say that very generally, and I know that's not always helpful, but I think that we tend to be very low risk a lot of times, just do what's kind of safe, and I don't think there's time in the Great Commission for safe, because to me, at least the way we operate here is high faith and high risk, because it's what we're doing for the Great Commission is urgent.
Right.
And there needs to be that sense of urgency behind it. So I would just encourage you to take that step of faith. If you're thinking about it, just do it. I was encouraged by the story you told about a couple that is going to sell their house and thinking about doing the same very thing. Man, I want to call them on the phone and encourage them and try to help them as best I can, because I think it's worth the risk. Right now, like I said, we're only at 70% of where we want to be, but I'm willing to make that investment, not towards profitability, but towards kingdom growth and kingdom impact, because that is happening. That's the visual.
Well, and the financial profitability, I can promise you, we've done it and we've seen other. It will come. I mean, I know we were just looking at your numbers. You're having a great day today.
Yeah.
And this place has been full all day. And
Saturday's a great day.
And it's just going to keep growing and growing, because it's exponential. As you get 10 people in here, and those 10 people have a great experience, they're going to tell 100 people. And out of those 100, maybe 10 or 20 of them, and they'll go tell 100. And that's how it grows. It just takes time to grow this type of business. And you just got to, it's not luck. It's just hard work and just hanging in there, and it really tests your faith.
Yeah, it really
being
does.
in business, because you do everything that you think somebody was telling me, Eric says, man, we're just doing everything right, and I just want it to happen quicker, and that's normal.
Yeah.
I remember when we first opened our shop, I remember the first day we opened up. Of course, everybody knew we were there. I think the first day we did like $1,100 or $1,200 in business.
Yeah.
I said, man, this is going to be great if we do
Yeah.
this. Well, we didn't do that every day.
Yeah.
And in fact, it went way down,
Same
and then it kind of got to a level, and I went, oh. But then it just started working up. And our CPA, who's a great Christian guy, he told us, he said, man, you guys have nothing to worry about. He does our taxes every year. He said, y'all are just slow and steady. That's what you want. You don't want
one of the things that we say at the church a lot is long obedience in the same direction.
Right.
And that's really what it is.
Yeah.
And we believe we're being obedient to the call that God's given us.
And God will bless that.
Continue.
Yeah, God promises in His Word that you do what you're supposed to do, and everything's going to work out.
Yeah.
And so this is great. Well, I appreciate you sitting down with me.
Absolutely. Well,
I hope
you
we've
guys.
answered a few questions. This was not scripted. We've just kind of been just talking.
Yeah.
And we're going to do some more. And if you have any questions, I'm sure Aaron, you can look up OB Church. It's coaster.coffee. Very clever.
Yes.
This coffee is a URL you can use now, like .com or .org. .coffee. It's coaster.coffee. It's here in Ocean View. You can go there, follow them on Facebook, Facebook.com/Coaster Coffee, Instagram. Aaron Dininny is the senior pastor, and they would love to talk to you. Message them, whatever.
Absolutely.
And would love to encourage you. And we were telling we've got several different groups that are starting to move in this direction. I would at some point like us to all have we had 5 churches doing this, have weekly conference calls to talk, and because one of the synergy that we can have, and we've had kind of a synergy between our experience and what you're experiencing, if we had 4 or 5 other church community shops that are going, and we could all get together and Skype once a week, once every 2 weeks, and we could all share and send in our notes and say, this is what we're going to talk about this week, the synergy we would get, and that's our vision for growing coffee for mission. So we just, this is very exciting to us to see this happening. We're really excited for you guys, and we're going to come back in a year and see what's going on.
I can't wait. It's going to be great.
Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks, Sam.